Well, hey, welcome back to another episode of Road Noise. I'm glad you're hanging out with Dad and I as we continue to reminisce on just God's provision over 50 plus years of ministry and work. And I know it's been a busy couple of weeks, Dad. And I know that part of that is kind of like year end, ministry year end stuff, is you're actually out on the road doing ministry events and some exciting stuff there. We didn't get a chance yet to talk about where we're headed tonight, but I am curious to know where in the map you're taking us.
All right. I heard it said many years ago that you'll be the same 5 years from now as you are today, except for the books that you read and the people that you meet. And I believe there's a lot of truth to that. And I want to share a story that maybe we've shared before. I know if we haven't shared it in detail, at least we've touched on it in the past, but I don't think I ever shared how it all got started. And so let's back up to when we were living in Alaska, living in our wooden tent, and putting together puppet programs and doing meetings all over the state up there and so forth. But met somebody. Remember, we're going to be the same 5 years from now, except for the books that we read and the people that we meet. And there was a missionary that came to our church, and I have no idea what the guy's name was. I believe he was from Japan. But whoever he was, the Lord knows, and that man planted in me a vision of what could be done with our puppets. Um, we were using a slide projector and, with Bible verses and so forth. And I know we've talked about how that was not ideal when we had a slide projector setting out in the audience with a bunch of kids. I mean, that was a disaster waiting to happen, but that disaster never did happen. But we did have a slide projector sitting out there, and we were using one slide projector. And this missionary showed up and had his presentation of what he was doing in wherever he was from. So let's say it was Japan. And he was using a slide projector and a movie projector. And he had somehow, it was set up so that he would plug in a tape, cassette tape, and that cassette tape not only produced the audio for his slide presentation, but it controlled the slides. And what really got my attention is a slide would come up with a picture of, I don't know, let's just say somebody on a bicycle. And as you're looking at this still picture of somebody on a bicycle, all of a sudden that bicycle would start to move as the movie projector kicked in. And so now you're watching a movie of this person riding the bicycle. And then the movie stops, and it no sooner stops, and the next slide comes up. And so the whole presentation was a multimedia presentation going from slide projector to movie projector and back and forth. Wow, I had never seen anything like that. In fact, that's the only time I ever saw anything like that. But that planted in me a vision that, wow, we need to do that. We need to add a movie projector or something. I don't know how this works, but however it is, we need to find that out. Now, to do the one projector that we had, it was controlled with a cassette, and I had to buy a special recorder. It really wasn't all that special. It just had to be a stereo recorder. And one of the channels on the stereo side was used to produce audio signal that would control the slides. And so they were controlled automatically as long as you programmed it with this stereo regular tape recorder. Well, anyway, so that's where we were using the one projector, but knew that there was more out there. I just didn't know who. So this man had planted the vision, but it was going to take somebody else to get me to the next step. Well, that next step didn't happen until quite some time later after we moved back from Alaska back to Michigan. And so we're attending a church in the Lansing area, and we're working on the puppet stage and everything. And I'd shared with the pastor that, what we were doing with one projector and that we wanted to add another projector, like maybe a movie projector, like I'd seen that missionary use. And he said, "Oh, I know some people that do things with more than one projector." Well, now I'm like, cool. I mean, except for the people that you meet. So, yeah, let's meet some more people, some people that have expertise and know how to use more than one projector. Well, anyway, so he's the one then that introduced us to Mike and Jay Workman. Now, Mike Workman was an engineer for General Motors there in Lansing. His wife, Jay, well, between the two of them, they owned a business called One Way Communications. And their business was developing and producing multi-projector presentations. And these were huge at that time. They were brand new, something that really nobody else was doing, but Mike and Jay had the equipment, they had the knowledge, and they were producing these multimedia presentations with lots of projectors. They were doing things with 3 projectors, 6 projectors, 9 projectors, and even 12 projectors. Now, we're using 35 millimeter film, which, if you know anything about that type of film, that was a pretty high resolution image. And that image had a sharper image and so forth than even most of the movie film did. Unless you had the real high-end movie film like they'd used for out in California and so forth. Well, anyway, so because of the high resolution that slides had and the low resolution of a home video, movie recorder, that made the slides real popular. Now, this was before VHS tape or anything where you couldn't do home videos. And so if you wanted to do any video at all, it had to be film. And like I said, the resolution wasn't that great. And that was very expensive. The editing on film to make movies and so forth was very time consuming. And I mean, yeah. But with slides, higher resolution, less cost in editing and producing. Okay, it takes a different set of equipment and so forth, but still relatively inexpensive compared to the alternatives. So who is it that Mike and Jay would have as a customer? Well, these are going to be big corporations. These were people that had the big bucks. These were the people that had a very expensive product that needed to be promoted and so forth. And so in order to advertise or promote their company or their product, they were hiring Mike and Jay to produce these extraordinary productions. There was also some others like museums would have maybe a small theater set up, and they would have these multimedia slide presentations about historical things or events or things that were featured there in the museums. But anyway, whoever was their client were people with big bucks. And that wasn't us. Here we are. We're wanting to add a second projector for our puppet things and low budget stuff. Well, anyway, so our first meeting with Mike and Jay, they didn't know us at the time, didn't know what we were doing, but I told them what I had seen done with this missionary and that I wanted to add another projector. Whether that was a slide projector or a movie projector or something, just to take what we're already doing to the next level. Well, Mike and Jay, their area of expertise was in slide projectors, not movie projectors. And again, if you did anything with movie, who's going to edit that? And so forth. So they kind of squashed that idea real quick and said, hey, if you want to add more projectors, yeah, you could do two projectors, and that would be better than what you're doing. But why not skip two projectors and jump right straight to three? And then they explained to me the difference of what you could do by adding a third projector. I had no clue. But now I'm talking to people that are experts in this field, and they knew exactly what the difference would be in the capabilities. And so they're saying, yeah, let us help you, and we'll put together a three-projector presentation. Well, how are you going to turn down an offer like that? And I'm kind of curious as what's it going to cost. And they were so excited about what we were doing in ministry that they volunteered just to do that. And that they would provide some used projectors. And you had to have a controller. Now, this controller basically was a computer. And we're talking the days before home computers. But this was a transition time when home computers are starting to come out. And in fact, in order to control these three projectors, it could be done with an Apple II, or it might have been an Apple II Plus. But then you also had this other box that, after it was programmed, that would actually receive those signals that was programmed in a computer and would physically attach then to the three slide projectors. And then that cassette tape would pick up the signal that the computer produced and then feed that into this other box computer that was hooked up to the projectors. Now the three projectors are sitting there, but they're receiving signals, and I mean, it was cool. You could tell projector 1 to go to slide number 5, and projector 1 would do that and show the slide in the 5th position. You could say, projector 3, I want you to go to slide number 15. And while you're doing that and showing that slide, projector 1, we want you to back up to slide 3. And projector 2, we want you to advance all the way. So you could move projectors and slides any combination you could think of. Well, with three projectors, you could do some pretty cool things, including some kind of basic animation. Like I said, I had no clue. But boy, the people that you meet can certainly change things for you. Well, anyway, so we were in the process at that time of putting together the Love program that we've mentioned several times in recent podcasts. And the Love program was to be the first program then that we would have the capability of having three slide projectors backstage. So it's going to be rear projection, not out front where the kids can run into it and so forth. We had the puppets all made. We had the script recorded. We had the scenery all set. I mean, everything was pretty much in place when we met Mike and Jay. And so they said, well, give us an outline of this program that you've got and the different things that you'll be doing, and let us see what we can do to make it better. And so I gave them a copy of the puppet script that we had already recorded and so forth, and the different things that we're going to use, the Bible verses that we're going to use. And they took that, I mean, that was basically their outline that they needed to perform their magic. Well, Mike and Jay are working on the love program for us. But keep in mind, Mike still has his day job at GM, and Jay is still running their production business, and the two of them working on programming things for these big clients that are paying them big bucks. And so we've become real good friends with Mike and Jay, working with them. But I kind of see how this works. These big productions that they're putting together for big corporate events and so forth. I mean, they're very complicated things, and it takes a whole lot of work on their part. And okay, so you're working with these computers and all these projectors. And like I said, they might be working with 12 projectors. And you got to program each one of those, and you can program each projector down to the millisecond. And so when you want something to happen on a screen, it's just a matter of telling that computer which millisecond you want it to happen. Well, you show the thing, you're set up, and, as you're rehearsing it and everything, as they are, they're putting it together, and they would see, okay, we need to adjust this one projector, just the timing, just a few more milliseconds, and it'd be better than what it is. And so they would go into the computer, make that little adjustment, and then show it again, and yeah, that's better. Oh, but here comes another slide. We need to adjust that one. I guess what I'm saying is it's kind of referred to as apple polishing. I mean, you've got a beautiful presentation. I mean, it's going to blow the socks off of your competition, and your corporate sponsor is going to be so impressed with this. But as the producer, they're saying, oh, but if we tweak it just a little bit more, it could be just that much better. Well, at some point, you've got to say, enough is enough. The client is waiting. We have to have this in their possession tomorrow morning. And so they're up late at night, just making the last minute tweaks, but knowing that, okay, we've got to quit. I mean, we promised the client they would have it at this time, and we've got to quit. I mean, it's good. Yeah, we could spend more time and tweak it and make it a little bit better, but no, it's done. Well, we had seen them do these for other clients. So I guess it really shouldn't be any surprise that it would be the same with us, tweaking things at the last minute. Well, Jay had suggested that we go ahead and schedule a church in the Lansing area and plan on doing the love program for the very first time, complete with 3 projectors. Okay, so I did. It's on the calendar. And as I was thinking about this afternoon, it was probably almost exactly this time of year. Because this presentation was going to be for a mother-daughter banquet. And back then, during the month of May, let me just put it this way. We had one month of May where there were 4 days that we did not do a program. Okay, so a lot of those were, I mean, we're talking every day of the week. We're doing a puppet program. Yeah, and I'm still working at the hospital full time. So yeah, in an entire month of May, 4 days that we didn't do a program. And so we're scheduled to be at this church for a mother-daughter banquet. And Jay says, just go ahead and I will meet you at the church. I will bring this little computer thing and the 3 projectors and the tape and everything. And so you just go ahead and get the puppet stage set up, get the sound system set up, get your lights set up, get the scenery in place. You go ahead and do your part, and then I'll get there with the projectors. Okay, so we got to the church, and And we got everything set up. And we waited. And we waited. Where's Jay? I mean, come on. This mother-daughter banquet is going to be starting here, but where's Jay? And this was before cell phones. And from where they lived, it would have been a long distance call, even if we could have used the church phone. And so there's no communication. We have no idea where she's at. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking, and we are good to go, other than the fact that we don't have a tape. So we don't have the voices for the puppets. We don't have the music. We don't have any projectors. So there's not any Bible verses. It's like, oh my, what are we going to do if she doesn't show up? Well, Jay always shows up. It might be at the last minute, but she always shows up. And she had the equipment. She had already tested it. I mean, she was tweaking it to the very last minute. And finally, yeah, it's done. I got to get to the church. So when she got there, basically, she just kind of politely said, "Get out of my way. You've got everything else set. I will set the projectors up, and we got plenty of time. You'll be good to go. But yeah, just get out of my way and sit back and watch." And that was pretty amazing to watch this lady do her magic as she got all three projectors set up. All the projectors have to be aligned perfectly with each other. And so we watched her do that. And next thing you know, she's saying, "Okay, when it's time to start, just push this button." It was like, okay, I guess. But I've never seen this before. We haven't rehearsed this part. I don't know what it looked like. I don't know, is it really going to work? And so I guess you could say I was a little nervous about the whole situation. But there's nothing I can do about it at this point but trust the expert. And definitely she was an expert. Well, let's just jump ahead and say that when it came time for that mother-daughter banquet to start, and we hit the button on that recorder, things happened. Beautiful things happened. Exactly as we had talked about, with Mike and Jay. The slides were right on cue, every single one of them. Nothing missed a beat. Here we are backstage, operating puppets, but kind of glancing over at that rear projector screen every now and then and so forth. And then a song came on where that gives us as puppeteers a chance to give our arms some rest. And that song was done with the slides. And here I am backstage watching this for the very first time. And when it got to that song, so I can just actually watch it and pay attention to what I had tears in my eyes. It was a beautiful thing. Well, those three projectors and what we did from that love program and every program after that, we used three projectors. And it was that probably set us apart from any other puppet group that I have ever seen. Yeah, we were doing some cool things with the puppets and so forth, but to add that three projector rear projection things with the slides, that was just amazing. And it took these experts to pull it off. They not only did that for us, but they put together a promotion thing that we could show churches that talked about what we were doing and so forth. And it was the same quality of presentation that they were doing for these big corporate things. Okay, it was just a 3 projection thing, not a 12, 6 or 9, but it was still, to this day, I haven't seen any missionary or any church group or anything that had a promotion thing like we had. They not only did that and didn't charge us for it, but they ended up donating the projectors and the computer to make it all happen. To this day, it is one of the largest donations that our ministry ever received. But what an amazing thing that did for our ministry. Talk about getting people's attention and sharing the gospel. Talk about getting kids' attention when things are flashing up on that screen. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. I can't imagine how many lives were changed because of that technology and that couple, Mike and Jay Workman. Well, it wasn't very long after that that Jay got cancer and passed away. We continued to develop more programs. Mike would help us as he could. Mike eventually got transferred to Detroit, and so he wasn't close by for us. And we were pretty much on our own at that point. But we had the knowledge, we had the skills, knew how to put things together ourselves, and so we could continue to do that. Well, it was many years later that Mike got married. He met somebody over in the Detroit area, and they were married. And we were doing a program in the Detroit area. And afterwards, this lady comes up and introduces herself as Mrs. Workman. It's like, wow. Had no idea that she was there in the audience. Well, she had heard that we were going to be at this church. Mike had told her so much about the puppet prospectors and what we were doing with three projectors and so forth. And so Mike had to work that night, but she had to come to check it out for herself. And she was blown away with what she saw. And that was all because of her husband and what they had taught us to be able to do. Well, anyway, so long story short, it goes back to the people that you meet. God has people out there. And as you meet new people, some of these people are going to affect your life. And your life is going to change. Maybe not instantly, it might be 5 years down the road, but your life will change because of the books that you read and the people that you meet. We're so thankful for Mike and Jay Workman.
Yeah. I love that story. And I love too that how it all started in Alaska and kind of trickled down into the lower 48. And of course that that projector setup was most all of my childhood, lugging those things around,
Yeah,
setting them up and watching them do their magic. And think about as you were telling that story, I was just reflecting on the time frame. We're living in Lansing at the time, so 45-ish years ago, give or
yeah,
take, and the state of technology at the time and just how cutting edge that was. And that also just reminded me that that has been a pretty consistent thread with the puppet prospectors and Jess Kading and Goliath Spear and so forth. Just this continue to lean into what is a new way to capture people's attention. And it's often informed by whatever technology is out and about. And at that time, it was projectors. And it makes me want to, not in this conversation, Dad, but maybe in the near future, we can have a conversation about the Good News program. That's one that you and I have revisited
yeah.
recently, and it's another. I love it because it's like just a huge contribution to ministry effort at a time that it was a time, when there like that moment existed in history for just a brief second, and you jumped into it. And same with projector work. So I love it.
From the very beginning, our tagline for our ministry, it was a complete multimedia ministry.
Yep.
That was our tagline. And I think we pretty much nailed it. I mean, it was a complete multimedia, whatever the media might be. And that's changed over the years. I mean, even the media that we used as far as puppets as a media kind of changed to magic,
Hmm.
and juggling and so forth. So, yeah, just God is so creative, and we are created in His image. And so we need to be creative too and come up with creative ways to share the gospel. The gospel message doesn't change, but my oh my, there's so many creative ways that we can share it. And again, how do you get and hold people's attention? And so, yeah, always kind of keeping my eyes open, my ear to the ground as to, okay, what's out there? What can be used? It's a tool,
Yep. Yep.
tool to be used to share the gospel.
Yep.
Well, Romans chapter 12, verse 6 says, having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them. Everybody's got a gift. Mike and Jay certainly had a gift and they used it. And because of that, my oh my,
What
just
a, yeah.
incredible
Huge blessing.
change to, yeah, huge blessing. Yeah. All right. So all that was, like I said, kind of early computer technology where computers were able to control slide projectors or movie projectors or both or whatever. And so I guess that takes us to kind of the end of the podcast where I need to ask some questions. How does a computer learn something new?
Mm. Mm-mm.
Bit by
Oh,
bit.
come on. Yeah, that's a,
Okay, what's an astronaut's favorite part of a computer?
I don't know.
That would have to be the space bar.
God, where do you get these? These are too good.
All right, I got one more, and it's not
All
any
right.
better.
Okay.
Why can't elephants use a computer?
I don't know.
They're afraid of the mouse.
Ah, yep.
All right,
That's how.
we've
Yeah.
gone far enough.
Well, hey, let's put it park here, and I look forward to picking this up again next week.